Susan here. Why should I pursue fashion design? That's the question, and I'm going to give you the qualities you need to know before you're thinking about going into the field of fashion design, and that's what's next. So, this is probably one of the most important videos that I'm going to make. I thought about it a while back, and then now I think it's the most relevant time to talk about it. I'm doing these series of videos talking about the industry in a broader sense and getting you ready to understand the aspect of the industry. And this is different than wanting to be a fashion designer or what is fashion design. This is, should I pursue fashion design as a career? Should I pursue it in my education? Should I pursue it in schooling? And I wish I had these answers before, when I was in high school or I was in grade school. I knew in the core of my being that I wanted to be a fashion designer only because I was very obsessed with the industry as a whole. But what if you're not really sure? What if you're not sure about the qualities that it takes to be a good fashion designer or to be a fashion designer, and possibly if you don't have these qualities, but you might have similar qualities and you can go into other fields like styling, photography, makeup artists, etc., right? But what does it take to be a fashion designer? What specific qualities are really key if you're going to become a fashion designer? And I wanted to talk about that today. But before I start, I want to say hi. If you haven't seen my channel before, I hope you're going to watch this till the very end. You're going to like it, you're going to subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything, because I have a lot to offer. I teach everything about fashion design. I'm a fashion designer, couturier, instructor, consultant, and much more. And I have a very large channel for you to see, so I hope that you're going to tune in and keep tuning in. So let's address this subject. And all I had in high school or in grade school were these aptitude tests. You know what the aptitude test is? I even looked online to see these aptitude tests, and believe it or not, they still have them. But the ones that they give you like in high school, there's nothing to do with art, or maybe there's nothing to do with fashion design, I should say. There might be something to do with art there, and it's a broad kind of a sense. But unless you're taking a specific aptitude test about fashion or art or history or costume, you won't know if you really even fit in. So this was kind of an aptitude test to see whether I was, like the other kids, wanting other, normal careers like nursing and law and, things that most people think about. But what do you do if you're that odd child? You just don't fit in. You possibly even had learning disabilities and things came hard for you, but one thing did not come hard for you: your visualization and all of that stuff. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm going to give you the top 10 qualities needed to be a fashion designer. Let's get started. Number 1, creativity. You are creative. You have a good imagination and you can think of things spontaneously, and the definition of creativity is the use of imagination or original ideas. So you have original ideas happening and percolating in your head. You have creativity. That's number 1. Number 2, you love fashion. Everything about fashion. You can't help it. You look at movies and you look at the clothing. You go to stores and you're obsessed with clothing. You look online. You love fashion. And I don't just mean you're going to Target and you're buying the t-shirt. I'm talking about you love the industry as a whole. You're interested in fashion. You're completely interested in clothing, and you love to use your creativity thinking about fashion. And that's number 2. Number 3, you're interested and curious about how things are made. You are looking at clothing a different way than the normal person. And I used to think that everybody looked at it this way too, and I found out later that that's not true. But I look at movies differently than other people, and I have to sometimes go to a movie more than once. And this is way back, even as a child, because I'm looking at the clothing. I'm looking at the period. I'm trying to see if it correlates with the period properly, or what did they actually wear? How is that garment made? If I go to a store and I try on something, I'm looking inside of the clothing. How did they make that? Oh, that seam was done differently, and you're curious about how something is made. Your brain wants to know how something is made. And that's number 3. Number 4, fabric excites you. You love fabric. You want to learn about fabric, you're interested in fabric, and you love that as your inspiration for creativity. You actually get inspired by looking at fabric. You think about fabric. And I don't mean if you're sitting down and you're just drawing and you're interested about the artwork and the paint and all that stuff. That is not your medium if you are a fashion designer. Fabric is. So you have to be very interested in fabric, what it is, what are the differences of the different fabrics, how it reacts, and what you like, what you don't like, and what works for what. Number 5, this is a big one, guys. You want to sew. This is where it starts differentiating between fashion design and styling and photography and makeup artistry. You want to learn how to sew. One of the first questions I asked some of my youngest students, and I had some as young as 7 years old, do you want to sew? Do you like to sew? Or would you rather just draw or pick things from a closet? And if they say, no, I just can't stand the thought of sewing, then that's not your field. Even if you're not going to be sewing in the very end, and you're going to have your seamstresses, and you're going to have your atelier, and you're going to have your pattern makers and all of that fun stuff, you still need to understand sewing, and you still need to know how to sew, because you can't create with what you don't know, if that makes sense. So you generally want to learn how to sew, even if it's the basics, and you find yourself creatively using that medium of sewing in order to create the ideas that keep floating in your head. Okay? That's important, and that's number 5. Number 6 is when we're diving deeper into this, and that is you like to create from nothing. That you find yourself creating in the oddest ways, in the oddest places. My favorite place to create is sitting quietly on the beach, in the sand, staring at the ocean, and letting my mind completely clear till the imagination starts happening. Sometimes it's a movie, sometimes it's music, but you find yourself creating things that are not on the TV screen, or not on your video screen, or not on your computer screen. If you're looking at garments and you're looking at items on the screen and you're obsessed with that and you want to make that, that is different than creating as a real fashion designer. Those are fashion design skills as well, and there are jobs for that, but it is not the creative genius fashion designer that I'm hoping and wanting you to become. That is more for big lines that have you buy and set, and draw items that exist already. Or that is for stylists who like to pick that hat and that belt and that skirt and that top and put it all together, and they're very good at it, and they can put that whole look together, and they're creative. And yes, they're very, very good at creating with items that exist. I'm talking about creating from nothing, that you can sit down and think of an idea that you're not looking at on a screen, if that makes sense. Number 7, you want to know about art and history and color and everything to do with art. But this is where it gets tricky. If you love art and you love everything to do with art and you're more interested in drawing that pretty picture, then that might be a different field, like illustration or fine arts or sculpting. But if you're looking at art to enhance your ability to create a garment, something to wear that you are thinking of, then that is a key essential quality that a fashion designer must have. Because like I said before, you need to put things into the bank in order to release them to create. So the more things you bring into the bank, the more things you bring into your mind, such as art history and color theory and drawing and elements that are important to have and qualities to be a fashion designer. Number 8, you like to draw. And I don't mean drawing the apple or the still life or the beach scene, that you primarily find yourself drawing people. You find yourself drawing dresses. You find yourself in a moment wanting to draw out or put down your ideas that you're thinking of in your head about a garment. That your focus of creativity, your focus of drawing, your focus of art history, your focus of fabric has to do with that garment. How am I going to make it? How am I going to express myself to show you what I'm making? And that's drawing. Drawing, illustration for fashion design. I didn't draw before I went to fashion design. In fact, some of my entry illustrations to the school were probably some of my first actual illustrations that I did. But I was able to make garments 3D before I went to school. So I was able to create in one of these areas. Number 9, you're willing to work harder than anybody. You're willing to be isolated at times, working alone, or possibly working in a larger crowd with other designers or other company people working in a collaboration. You're willing to work and not give up. You have it in the core of your being. You know inside, really deep, that you really want to be a fashion designer, and you're willing to take the tedious amount of work that is involved in creating and preparing and analyzing and pricing and all the stuff that it takes to be successful as a fashion designer, and you're willing not to give up. That you know that it's something you're not going to be wishy-washy about and maybe go into another area. In other words, you don't have a million different ideas of what you want to do. You're pretty focused by this point. You're thinking, yes, I have all those other elements, I have all those other qualities, and I want to stick to this, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm not going to let go. That's number 9. Number 10. Number 10. Very simple, but very difficult at the same time. You have something to say. You have a story to tell. You have an idea to portray. You have thoughts that you want to put down, and it has to do with fashion. That your creativity from your art and your history and your sewing in classes and your visualization and your thought patterns all have to do with an idea or a theme or a thought or a vision that you have for your garments. You have to have something to say. Just like a movie producer has to have an idea of where that movie is going or what they have to say. Even in fashion design, sometimes when I'm sketching my initial sketches, I actually can visualize that down the runway. That's how far in advance that I'm thinking when I'm actually creating. I have an idea, and it could be one shell, and I can make a whole collection around the shape of that one shell, the color of that one shell, but I have a story to tell, and I'm saying that I want to give you that story from my inspiration that I got from that one shell. So you have something to say. It could be political, it could be social, it could be have to do with graphics, it can have to do with anything, but whatever it is, you're going to be using your creativity, your tools, and your qualities as a human being to portray your creativity in expression of fashion design. I hope that makes sense, and I hope from this video you can understand what qualities are very important to have if you want to pursue in the field of fashion design. It is hard work. You're going to have to stick it out. There is a lot of competition, but if you really love it in the core of your being, whether you're shy or extroverted, it really doesn't matter, because you're going to stick it out because it's there so deep, you're going to want to do it. So I hope you love this video. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends, especially the young ones. The young ones who are just contemplating and thinking and throwing this around. Or even the older ones who went into another field but said, well, I have those qualities. Why didn't I pursue it? And let's do it now. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you love it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.